Where can e-commerce take us? The COVID-19 pandemic changed consumer behavior. E-commerce grew and the retail industry developed digital innovations. Today, O2LAC is the second fastest growing retail e-commerce market worldwide and is exploring personalization tech, metaverse engagement, and digital wallets. But to tap into its full potential, we need faster and more reliable connectivity and to facilitate cross-border transactions. Let's take advantage of digital opportunities to expand globally.
Portals now that are not only informational in nature, but they are also transactional, which means that digital is here to stay. Digital is covering pretty much every aspect of your life, whether professional, business, healthcare, entertainment, dating, even confessional. I just learned that in my home country, there is this priest that provides confession via WhatsApp. You just call him and you get the confession. Of course, this is not a commercial exchange. It's a divine transaction, but that is beyond the point. The fact is that digital is now here to stay, and businesses know it. These guys know exactly what's going on out there. Of course, we know that COVID-19 became an opportunity to increase and to give more visibility and more usefulness to the e-commerce. In fact, we found that an O2LAC demonstrated that digital commerce grew by about 30% in Latin America, and we at the Inter-American Development Bank also had some research with microdata based on credit card exchanges and transactions in Uruguay, and we learned that also during the pandemics, cross-border transactional e-commerce grew by about 37%. So it seems like we all rediscovered in a big manner e-commerce during those pandemic days. Of course, there are many challenges now associated with e-commerce, both in terms of how to take full advantage of the opportunities for consumers and for SMEs, but also on how to craft public policies so that we can expand and we can control the negative externalities of e-commerce. There are still problems, you know. Digital connectivity is still a challenge. Even though Latin America is, making great progress in that regard, we still have some gaps to close. We have problems with payments, with logistics, with e-literacy, with regulations on privacy, etc. Many of these dimensions are being discussed multilaterally in the WTO, and we expect to have a draft agreement at the end of this year. But the fact of the matter is that opportunities are here to stay, and SMEs are particularly well placed to take full advantage of those opportunities. We have this platform, Connect Americas. We have all been listening about it, and I invite you to go, because for SMEs, there are a lot of courses, training, toolkits, etc., to teach them how to take advantage of this trend and how to place their products, their goods, their services, to learn how to generate payments and how to connect with the markets so that they can take, again, full advantage of the opportunities that digital markets provide today. So we have to learn to enjoy those benefits, but it's not so easy, and we don't see what's going on behind the screen. And that's what we are going to learn today, because we have a very interesting panel, a very interesting lineup on disrupting the retail landscape, navigating the future of e-commerce in a post-pandemic world. And we're going to learn about the new technologies, developments, delivery models, new skill sets needed to conquer the markets, challenges regarding payments and financial transactions, etc. So let me introduce the panel here. We have Pablo Larguía, founder and CEO of Sensei Note. We have Daniela Cadena, the Director of Corporate Development of Cheaper, Colombia, US. We have Kaden Preston, he's the founder and CEO of Carry Shopper. We have Germán Montoya at the end, he's the CEO of WOW, and we have Anabel Perez, President and CEO of Novo Payment. So we're going to start with a set of questions and a conversation here in order to explore the many challenges and opportunities, of course, that we have today regarding e-commerce, and what are the new challenges after the pandemic. So let's start with you, Paulo. Again, thank you very much. Paulo, again, is the founder and the CEO of Sensei Node from Argentina, and this firm based in Buenos Aires, have sold more than $50 million in blockchain infrastructure services in Latin America again. So he's very well placed to discuss those issues. So, Paulo, please let us know what opportunities has the pandemic era boom in e-commerce opened up for digital solution developers for Latin America and the Caribbean? Has it facilitated the creation of startups?
Well, hi everyone, and thank you for the invitation, Esperanza and Fabrizio and all the IDB team. Super happy to be here. Yes, absolutely, the pandemic accelerated the landscape for e-commerce about 5 years in 1 year, right? And I think one of the biggest opportunities for all of us, for entrepreneurs, is that now there's no frontier. Cross-border is super easy. For example, I know a lot of entrepreneurs in Latin America that from any country in the region, you can just online create an LLC in the US, open a bank account, and take advantage of a program of Amazon called Fulfillment by Amazon, where you can send to their warehouses either products from Latin America, or you can, with business intelligence, you can know which products are most demanded on Amazon US or Europe, and you can just buy them in Asia, in China, send it directly to warehouses in Amazon in the US, sell it over there, Amazon send you your profit to your bank account in the US. So basically you can have a global business from Peru, Ecuador, or any country in the region. I know a lot of people doing that and taking advantage. So I think after the pandemic, one of the most important things is cross-border. And secondly, Jamaica can also take advantage from the digital nomads, people that are doing this kind of businesses that can live in any place in the world, and they can choose Jamaica to live in. So also from a government perspective, it will be super interesting to have a kind of, as some countries are already doing it, some kind of nomad visa for people to stay and live here, do business, and spend their money here.
Thank you, Pablo. Yes, the nomads, it's quite an interesting trend that we are observing. We are supporting some of the programs in some cities, such as in Mexico, such as in Buenos Aires, etc. It's a big issue right now. We will need to explore those a little bit more later on. Now, Daniela. Daniela, again, Director of Corporate Development of Cheaper, a Colombia, US firm. Cheaper has developed a B2B platform, a one-stop shop for small independent retailers, the tenderos, or the small shops that we see in every corner in our neighborhoods in Latin America. So far, they have engaged about 80,000 retailers in Colombia, Mexico City, in Sao Paulo, and Chile. So, Daniela, again, welcome. And for you, what are the most significant obstacles for small and medium-sized businesses to utilize e-commerce platforms? And how might they be overcome? In other words, why did B2B transactions lag behind in the shift to e-commerce?
Thank you. And thank you, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here in your beautiful island of Jamaica. I'm going to go and answer that question with the fundamentals. We're going to start with internet infrastructure. We are all knowing that there's internet penetration in Latin America and the Caribbean that's surpassing India, China, and almost meeting the levels of the US and the EU. But is that internet connectivity equitable, right? It's not the same to think about, I don't know, Polanco in Mexico City, the urban core in our major urban hubs, but when you start going to the peripheries, to los barrios, the ghettos, the favelas, connectivity is not as reliable as you would think. And I think this is we see it at Chipper in our day-to-day. We see how corner store owners are using devices that might be iPhone 6, Androids from 2-3 generations, and sometimes our platforms are being designed for what an engineer might have in their desk. And that immediately creates a very poor customer experience at the shopping. Imagine for Chipper, what we do is if you're a corner store owner, you can buy everything you need in one application with over 3,000 SKUs, and we get it to your doorstep in less than 24 hours. Right now, as a corner store owner, you probably have to deal with over 100 suppliers that not often come to your store, maybe once or twice a month. I think Coke and Bimbo are the ones that get to the store the most. And so you start to think about the ability to buy inventory for a store with an application that's crashing every two to 3 hours because of your internet connectivity. And that's something that at Chipper we have to tangibly and intentionally design for, because our customers are the ones that are in lower income neighborhoods. So internet penetration and internet connectivity that's equitable, I'd say, is one of those pieces that still is becoming a barrier for a lot of our small and medium-sized businesses in Latin America and the Caribbean. And you see it in their productivity. You know, while the United States and the EU, I think roughly 90 to 94% of their economy is from medium and small businesses, they generate 40, 50, 60% of the productivity for the countries. If you look at that ratio in Latin America, we're nearly 99% of our economy is by medium and small businesses, yet our productivity is represented by less than 25%. And so there's such a big gap. The second piece I will talk about is payment infrastructure. We have leapfrogged during the pandemic, and we are seeing a lot of more options, but there's still a lot of options that are transaction fees. And for a small, medium business size owner, a 2 to 3% merchant fee might mean their entire margin when you're talking about traditional retail specifically. And then I would bucket the third big barrier as just day one value. You know, historically, especially pre-2010, a lot of the solutions were horizontal. That means that they were very bulky to integrate into medium-sized businesses, a lot of technical and adoption in your businesses. But right now, we have to start thinking about vertical solutions. And what that means is industry specific. So Chipper, we've tackled traditional trade, traditional retail, and FMCG goods. So all of the things you would buy in a corner store, from like chips to Coca-Cola, to Cokes and drinks. Well, in order to do that, oh my God, I'm scared. In order to do that, you need to have a day one value proposition. So I'm sorry, I'm water. I'm sorry, I apologize.
It's coming.
So when we talk about vertical integration, that means that we are very specific. We go from acquiring a corner store to understanding their specific portfolio, to storing these goods and services, and then doing last mile delivery. And all you gotta do is download an application. You no longer have to have an entire IT system to be able to get value from the first day you have a product. And I think that's one of the things that we're starting to see across the entire industry. People that are very focused on beauty, on pharmacy, on pet products, and they're able to provide value from day one to all of these B2B small business owners. And I think that's really exciting, and it's bringing more equity into our small business owners around the economy.
Thank you, Daniela. Yes, new software that provide a very valuable service to small retailers in Latin America so as to increase their productivity and eventually to reduce prices to consumer, which is, at the end of the day, what we really need. Thank you very much. Now, let me go over to Kadion Preston. Kadion, thank you. Welcome again. He's the founder and the CEO of Carib Shopper. Carib Shopper is a Jamaica, US company. It's a digital platform for hard-to-get products from the Caribbean, particularly food, healthcare, and skin products purchased in large markets such as the US and Europe, closely related to nostalgic retail. Since its inception in 2021, they have received more than 76,000 orders, international, cross-border orders. That's very interesting. Kadion, thank you again very much. And the question would be, what hurdles have held back cross-border e-commerce in the Latin America and Caribbean region, in your opinion?
Thank you, Jaime. Good morning, everybody. The challenges for building out an e-commerce system in Latin America or the Caribbean, everybody can think about the common ones, whether it be payments, cross-border payments, logistics, or infrastructure, web infrastructure. Those problems are getting resolved, and it's moving rapid since COVID-19. I think the bigger challenges for our region is around understanding how to provide the customer experience needed for online as single operators or retailers or manufacturers, the regulations and the regulatory boards that you have to appeal to, understand, whether it be you're shipping internationally, you have to have CBP and FDA regulations already built into your product. And then the second part is having an understanding of what it takes to succeed in an e-commerce environment. I think people downplay that it's a whole business in itself and think that it's a bolt-on or add-on. And in the world that we live in today, it's a significant part of your business growth. And if you're going in that direction, you have to be prepared and also have the right tools and support to get it done, or else you'll be frustrated and fail.
Thank you very much. Yes, we agree that it's an entire new business, something that needs to be learned. Fortunately, there are tools, as I mentioned, that help people out, particularly SMEs, in your own language, at the reach of a button in Connect Americas. Very, very accessible. So I advise you to go and check them out. Thank you again. Anabel Perez, the president and CEO of Novo Payment, which is a firm, a digital innovation firm, very interesting, devoted to devising and implementing digital payment solutions to banking sectors, merchants, fintechs, neobanks, etc. It's a fintech infrastructure enabler. That's the bottom line. It's a very interesting company because it's a portfolio company of the IDB Lab. It's operating in 15 countries in Latin America, Mexico, Colombia, Chile, among others. Again, Anabel, thank you very much for being here. The question would be, what does it take to scale cross-border financial transactions in Latin America? Why is it important?
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting, and it's a really honor to be with this, alongside with this great panel and friends. I would like to explain what we do, because it would clarify more the role that we play in order to answer the question. Novo Payment is a mission-critical infrastructure provider. We deliver the necessary components, technical assets to many banks, fintechs, merchants, and other organizations, so they can really streamline their processes to deliver their missions in the financial and payment space across multiple markets. My first time in Jamaica, and when I received the invitation, I started to study about the economy. And it's incredible that this island received over $3 billion in remittance on a yearly basis, with a population of 3 million. It's 10 times less in terms of population than Peru, with the same level of remittances. So it's incredible. And it's a huge opportunity to really develop a great ecosystem that would enable the e-commerce and the digitalization of transactions that will help local consumers to really buy goods and services. Cross-border it's a relevant topic of discussion, because many markets, including, as I mentioned earlier, Jamaica, receive large contribution of inflow of funds that represent a large percentage of the GDP. Market that sometimes for you, you would probably consider that it would be Mexico or Brazil. No, it's Mexico, Guatemala, Dominican Republic, Nicaragua, Honduras, Central America are extremely relevant in the space. And what that means is, when you streamline the process of sending money from any country of origin, Spain, the United States, or even intra-regional, and those funds are received to the end customer in a timely fashion, in a secure fashion, those funds are available for consumption. And those funds will impact the respective economies that receive those funds. And that is connected definitely with the way that people not only interact within each other, but also the way that they conduct transactions, not only at the local level, but also at the digital level. Many of the remittances that this country receives today and many other markets is still in cash. A lot of cost, and importantly, the instantaneous, the ability to receive it in real time is really hard. So we're working in a couple of projects as we speak that will accelerate that process, working in collaboration with the US firms and Visa in order to provide real-time payment that will facilitate the process of delivery of funds in less than 30 minutes. The two initial projects that we're working is going to be one in Central America, one in the Caribbean, and that will help people to really become more included in the digital economy.
Yeah, in fact, we have observed that in some sub-regions of Latin America and the Caribbean, the issue of payments is the big bottleneck in order to promote cross-border e-commerce. It's a major, major factor, and we're glad to hear that there are new models, new companies working on this, trying to facilitate that kind of transactional business. Thank you very much. Now, Germán Montoya. Germán is the CEO of WOW, which is a Colombia-US firm. WOW has created a very innovative social commerce paradigm by harnessing the power of more than 2,000 micro-entrepreneurs in Ecuador, Guatemala, Colombia, Argentina, and Mexico. Thank you, and welcome again, Germán. For you, the question is, what is the digital micropreneurship movement? How is it faring in Latin America, and how do you help foster micropreneurial inclusion?
Thanks, Jaime, and thanks everybody for having us here today. So today's panel is about e-commerce. We have created a company around social commerce, right? And to best understand it, let's first define micropreneurship. Micropreneurship is understood as those people, entrepreneurs that work for themselves or work with one or two more people, usually family members. They wake up every day and try to make ends meet. In Latin America, there are over 30 million micropreneurs that usually take the shape of resellers. They buy something somewhere and then sell it to somebody else. And these people, even though they have done it for all of their lives, even through generations, still struggle every day. And a digital micropreneur is that one that actually tries to enhance today's digital world, right? So before I was forced to sell to people that I knew or to sell people by the street, but now they can use digital tools and social access to many more people, and that's what WOW tries to do, give these tools and skills to these micropreneurs in a way that it's seamless and easy to use so that they can improve their businesses, usually by actually utilizing the asset they already have, which is the trust and confidence that their people have on them, so that they can better monetize their influence. Right? So it's interesting that in today's world, we all have access to mobiles, and we know this, and by doing that, we also have access to Instagram and Twitter and WhatsApp, and during the pandemic, most of these resellers were forced to use these mechanisms to keep relationships going. So a lot of the transaction went on during WhatsApp, all of the pre-sale of products, the sharing of pictures, the negotiation was going on WhatsApp, but the closing of the transaction, the delivery of the products had always been a problem. Even if I did well, I couldn't grow too much. I would need to ask a cousin to deliver a product. So we created a platform that helps micropreneurs negotiate products and scale much better than they would by themselves, to actually have access to data to see what their customers needed, which is something that only big corporations could have, deliver products to their clients, deliver guarantees, and actually charge for the products without leaving their houses and actually focusing on bettering their relationships. So that's what we're doing to help micropreneurship. In Latin America, about 70% of all commerce is still informal. It doesn't go through a bank. So it's a huge opportunity to create this economy of scale that usually meant acquisition or consolidation. Today, through technology, you can actually allow these people to have their own businesses, but still get the growth in the collective power of the community.
Oh, very, very interesting, Daniel. I see a lot of opportunities here, not only in terms of formalization of SMEs, but bancarization of SMEs, and also in terms of the sheer information, processed information that you can send them, because you have access to data, you can process that data, and you can facilitate, that information to the social entrepreneur, and there's great value there to gain. All right, so a second round of questions. I'm going to start again with Pablo. The second question for you would be, what about the competitive advantages that Latin America and the Caribbean may have? How do you capture and leverage your opportunity, your business, based on those comparative and competitive advantages that we may have?
Well, in the case of my company, Sensei Node, we deploy the infrastructure needed for blockchain to work, okay? So basically all these networks like Ethereum, they are decentralized networks, so they need nodes in the region for payment transactions. And the protocol, Ethereum in this case, all the transaction fees goes to the ones who want to deploy nodes. So in a way, it's like being a telecommunication company. When telco companies build the infrastructure for the internet, they were centralized in telcos. In this case, it's decentralized in all the entrepreneurs that want to have nodes in the region. So my company is a professional node operator and deployment. And how we take advantage of the opportunity in Latin America, definitely talent is a very important issue, because we have a great talent in Latin America, a lot of engineering. It's more competitive in terms of salary, the region. And so talent is key. And secondly, as you mentioned before, after the pandemic, remote is so obvious that we literally hire people in small towns all around Latin America that they want to live, keep on living with their family in their beautiful town, and they work remote. So I will say talent, remote, and a third key issue for all of us is that now technology is completely democratic, which means 20 years ago when the internet, or 25 years ago when internet was starting, you need to have the servers to connect and do your business. And now you can instantly know when a new trend or a new technology is happening worldwide. So now, of course, is artificial intelligence, ChatGPT. So again, any of us as entrepreneurs, we can dive deep in that technology, understand how it can impact our economy, our industries, our region, and build a team, a remote team, around that new idea or concept. So I would say talent, remote, and access to new technologies for all of us equally.
Thank you, and I now realize why you mentioned the issue of nomads and digital nomads, which provide them a good opportunity for you to have people anywhere around the world virtually, right? But particularly here in Latin America, where the talent exists, including in the Caribbean. There's other problems related to them, how to tax them, how to charge them social security, etc. But those are public policy problems that we will have to address at some point quickly. Thank you very much, Paulo. Now, Daniela, back to you. I'm going to ask you a question about last mile logistics. What do you see are the most important problems regarding that particular issue, which is very sensitive to the kind of business that you handle? Please.
Last mile delivery. That is one of the most beautiful, complex problems of e-commerce. Just to give you some scope for us, that we're going after grocery, basically. Roughly, Latin America and Caribbean, that's about a $500 billion industry. Less than 1% of that is being done through online transactions at the moment. So just to give us a scope of that, And while e-commerce is very sexy and we want to be doing everything online, someone needs to move the physical goods. And that piece is not that sexy. It is full of challenges. It is a 24/7 operation. And then put to that, the corruption and cultural nuances that we have in Latin America. Look, while someone in the United States or maybe in the EU wants to do a map or something with some like delivery and they need to tap into an API for a public map, that's all they have to do. And there's a public worldwide map that obviously has really well information for the EU and the United States. Amazon is one of the biggest contributors to that public map. You go to Latin America and the Caribbean, there's no one really contributing to that except for the roads that Google Maps, which I'm sure if you've used them, sometimes it takes you to really weird roads that no longer exist. So at Chipper, for example, we've been modeling and building our own maps. We probably have some of the best maps in Latin America at the moment. There's also a really interesting challenge. It's called Road Network Aware Maps. That means that you actually know if a road is going north, south, east, or west, because we've lost a lot of money and interesting challenges when a map told the driver to go from point A to point B, but there's a river in the middle. And these are the kind of challenges that sometimes, especially foreign investors or foreign entrepreneurs, don't really understand about the complexities of entrepreneurship in Latin America. Because entrepreneurship is already a gladiator's game. I think in Latin America, you're fighting against fierce dragons while there's just another level of challenges. And I think you have to be kind of in love with those day-to-day things to enjoy this last mile delivery. And then I'll close with one thing. This is a last mile delivery, availability of drivers is a challenge that the entire world industry is facing. But we're looking at in Mexico, Brazil, and Colombia, about 30% of the drivers that we need don't show up, so there's vacancies. And so instead of thinking about, how do we recruit more drivers, I think we had to flip the question and ask ourselves, how do we create more jobs in drivers? And how do we shift the perception of what it means to be a driver? Because sometimes, that job is not seen as the job that you want to create, but it is such a necessary job. And I think at Chipper, we've been designing how to bring dignity and work to last mile delivery to face those challenges.
Thank you very much, Daniela. Very interesting. In fact, yes, while maps may be the problem or are part of a problem, we have been how they have increased the quality throughout the last years in terms of precision, accuracy, updating, etc. So little by little, we will get there. I'm sure that you will start finding solutions very quickly. Thank you very much, Daniela. Now, Kadion, back to you. I want to ask you a question about culture, about cultural awareness in international markets. Do e-commerce companies that wish to go international need greater cultural awareness in their marketing and sales strategies? What can you share with us?
Yeah, that's an interesting topic because we consider that one of the things that we're doing is cultural commerce. We're connecting Caribbean made to people of Caribbean descent internationally and people who are connected to Caribbean culture in some way, shape, or form. The interesting thing when you're looking at a culture and how you adapt to that culture internationally, when you go into certain markets, you start with your early adopters. You think about who are your first customers, how they're going to react to you, how do you communicate to them. But once you've maximized that, and as an entrepreneur, you'll figure it out based on your conversion rates and different things that are happening, your next move is to go outside of that. And when we think about at Carib Shopper, like how we take Caribbean made from a marginal experience to a mainstream experience, you've seen brands like Angostura or Grace break the mold and go into mainstream markets with specific products that can appeal to multiple cultures. But when you look at that, it starts with how you communicate. It starts with understanding the market. I remember sitting down in a meeting with my team and we talked about what products can we take to mainstream. And we think of, in Jamaica, there's a product called bun. It's a snack, it's a sweet snack. But internationally, you can consider it a sweet version of a brioche or non-icing cinnamon roll, and how you communicate that product appeals to Anna, or it might appeal to Jaime, and they might be interested in trying it. And in the world that we live in today, we've noticed that consumers are taking the choice themselves. It's not, the big brands are getting disrupted by niche environments and people's interests shifting and consumers having the power of choice. So with that, as an entrepreneur, as you're looking to breaking into culture, try to get an understanding of that culture that you're breaking into, understand how your service product will get into the groove, and test and iterate on it. And that's the best advice I can give.
Thank you very much, Katie. And yes, actually, I'm going to find me one of those, probably at the airport. I look forward to. Yeah, the cultural dimensions of this business are absolutely essential. Now I have to move over on to Annabelle. Annabelle, please, how are the digital solutions like APIs, open banking, new delivery models, helping e-commerce business adapt to a changing business landscape, particularly the digital financial firms transformation? How are they coping with it? What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, that's a great question. The financial industry infrastructure across Latam and most part of the world is cracking. So many of the banks that serve us still use legacy infrastructure. So many banks are adapting and evolving their infrastructure to become digital native. And to do that, they are partnering with enablers so they can really offer the right type of experiences to their end customers. We live in a world that is at the intersection of traditional finance, embedded finance, and DeFi. And what we do is connect the three worlds. And in that regard, we're helping, for example, large banks across many markets, from Mexico to Chile, to build entirely new neobanks. They're benefiting from API technology to really build those innovative use cases, and to facilitate financial inclusion, to facilitate the opportunity for micro-entrepreneurs to receive payments, and also to be able to conduct new versions of cross-border P2P type of transactions. We're also helping disruptors to behave and operate like incumbents with regards to compliance. That is extremely important because financial services and payment are industries that are very well regulated. Just financial service provider with a license can really receive deposits, or they can really conduct payments. And if we don't have a strong infrastructure, the e-commerce space will not flourish. The e-commerce space today is very fragmented. There's a lot of efforts that have been made, but you see today many companies that are extremely good companies that are trying to solve the problem of cash conversion to digital. And I want to mention a few of them, including e-banks, or dLocal, or Rapid. There are companies that are helping to digitize cash into the e-commerce space. There's a lot of merchant aggregators, and I know that you're going to have a lot of success in your idea, that are helping as that are playing the role as a bridge between consumers and many merchants to facilitate again e-commerce, and they are all using API technology to connect the different endpoints to build new value over pre-existing assets. And I wanted to mention a few, including TAP in Dominican Republic, that is helping domestic P2P transaction, and helping the issuers at the local level to be able to create payment credential in a very short period of time. Another option, another examples are AstroPay, that is also doing a great job. So API technology, cloud computing, mobile, and open banking, and facilitating the opportunity to share data without compromising code, and creating new model of collaboration a new ecosystem that are really helping the e-commerce space to grow.
Absolutely. The new technologies are bringing new opportunities, new challenges, and that allows me to move on to the last question because we have time constraints here. And that last question goes to Germán, and it relates to the new technologies, like immersive technologies or crypto wallets. How do they impact Latin America e-commerce in the near term? What are your views on this, Germán?
Sure, thank you. Look, I think that everybody's talking about artificial intelligence lately. And I think that's a key technology, right? Because through artificial intelligence, we're able to really understand people's preferences, wants, and needs. In our case, we use it to create personalized catalogs. So when we use a nano-influencer that is known in their own community because they're a good cook, or they're the gamer in the community, or the technology guy in the community, and they need to use that credibility and trust they have created in their community in the best way possible, we send them catalogs that is correlated to their passions and experience, but also correlated to the big data sets, like what's trending, what's the best price for the community, for the type of person. So artificial intelligence helps us predict trends, customize catalogs, personalize experiences, and it's hard to think that in a year or so, versus what happens today, where consumption and commerce is full of noise, personalization is going to take over. So that's a big part of the technology that I think it's important. Digital wallets are also key. For example, today we have to pay commissions once a week. We send a transfer or we give out cash to our partners or socios. In a world where we have been seeing payments should be completely automatic and in real time. So all of these people should have their digital wallet in their place. As soon as they sell something, commission should be updated. It should be tokenized and saved so that that money is not only cheap to transact with, but can actually become not only loyalty points or just cash, but actually perhaps eventually become a token that can be a part of an asset, for example, being a part owner of the company that you work for. And I think finally, there's a lot of talk in developed countries about immersive technologies, about how you can buy or try out things without actually buying them. And I think that seems to be very Silicon Valley and very kind of far away, but I think that the use case for the bigger part of the pyramid is even better because there's a lot of cost of buying the wrong thing, right? So you have to buy it and then either have to live it. You cannot afford to not to buy the wrong thing, and I think that that's a big deterrent to actually commerce because people before buying their own thing, they rather just not buy it. So, and I understand that technology is still not there in terms of bandwidth and phones, and actually when we talk to our people, even though they might have smartphones, they actually just receive text messages. They use very little of the whole platform of the phone, but hopefully every day is cheaper. The chips are much more stronger. So I think that in a couple of years, this immersive technology can actually have a role in one of the levels of actually trying things before buying them. And I think that's going to be key.
Thank you very much, Germán. I forgot to mention when I started the fact that here in the Caribbean, we found the largest growth rate of e-commerce during the pandemics, and it's probably keeping it like that. So this is a region of the world in which the opportunities are very, very interesting. We have heard about models, payments, challenges, opportunities, last mile, etc. So many issues that underpin the challenges and the opportunities for SMEs and for consumers and for larger corporations here in Latin America and the Caribbean. So I want to leave it there. I want to thank our panelists today for such an interesting discussion. I want to thank the audience for coming here so early, and also to the audience that is online, because we've registered more than 450 people at the beginning of this session And thank you for everybody, and may you all have a nice rest of the day and interesting discussions and sessions and conversations and dialogues and businesses. That's what we are all here for. Thank you very much.
Thank you.